welcome to this episode of Connecting Cowichan. And on today's episode, we will be discussing smoking fish. And today we have special guest Wayne Page. Would you like to introduce yourself, Wayne?
Uitga, siem tewan. Sinansa, si nachten helkminum name. Given name is Wayne Page Sr. Born and raised in Genepsum here. All my life. Never went anywhere else.
What do you currently use for smoking salmon?
My father built, I got my smokehouse in the back, 8x8, and when we cut the fish and we just hang them up side by side, as long as they're not touching each other. And hang them up in the smokehouse and process them that way.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and in my smokehouse, I could probably put, if they're chums, 100, maybe 200 fish in the smokehouse. If it's coho in the smaller, or sockeye, I could probably get close to 250 in there if I had that much.
Fair enough. That's quite a bit.
Yeah. And I have racks in the bottom with the strips. I just bought a rack from my old Bradley smoker, and I cut them in chunks and just build my rack across, pull the boards out, pull the other one out, and let the rack sit on top to prep it up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, in the time that you've been smoking fish, have you had very, very many youth come and learn about the process of?
Not too many youth come out to learn. I did a project for LS, and I had some youth down here showing them how to prep it all up, cut it up, etc. Depends how they want to utilize how thick they want it, and or dry or half smoked, I had a few youth, but not too many youth, because the interest doesn't seem to be there, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All the fish that we used to spear in the river, took it home here, and I'm not going to kid you, my dad would sell a few, and Mom would smoke the rest. Then he'd say, go down and watch your mom. One day you're going to start to cut fish. So we said, okay. I said, okay. Then we started getting chum salmon from tribes. I was still working. My father took 100 chums, and Mom butchered it up, and Dad says, you got any more? Yeah, I'll take another 100. My dad, he said to me, I have it for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. The old house up top there, before they ripped that down, that was his work shed. And he tie all the fish on a rope from one corner to the other corner of the house, the 200 fish that we smoked. And each day he was cutting one. October came the following year, he was on his last one, and that's when we are getting more fish again, you know. But when I said it takes a technique to smoke fish, how to cut them, you know, as you see the fish is kind of a little bend here, I would cut and bend my knife a bit and go along the edge here, all the way to the tail, turning it around, do the same. I've never cut the fish in half. I smoked it whole. This is the way my mom had done it, right? Mm-hmm. I used to say, Mom, how come nobody wants to come and help, but when the fish are all smoked, Mom, you got smoked fish? You know, my siblings would ask. I remember Darlene Jack. She would come down and help, and I used to pay her for helping Mom. And she said, how much do you need? Just enough for bingo. Then when I started learning how to cut fish, Mom was doing 4 fish to my 1. You know, until I got better and better. I learned to have super sharp knives. I couldn't cut fish with dull knives. I had to have sharp knives. And when I thin it out a bit, to be honest, it's this thin. Be lucky if it's 3/4 of an inch thick, 1/2 an inch thick. And the inside where the bone is, you got meat on there, and I used to cut all the meat off and make jerky, you know, and learned how to deal with that as well, you know. I was watching a hunting channel on TV one day, and he was drying his meat and whatever. I looked, I can do that with my fish. So when I got my fish out, half smoked, seeing it on TV what they done, I got a fridge downstairs where I stack them all up and put the sticks underneath each one so I get air circulating there. I let it cool down in there for 2 days, then their marination in it would harden up more and it's easier to cut. Because if you didn't do that, try and cut it, your fish will go into pieces and stuff, right? So all Mom done is use coarse salt. But today I use coarse salt and honey. Yeah. And hang it up, like I said, half smoke for maybe 16 hours the most, 14 hours, and because I liked it half smoked, and we get it out of the smokehouse, and the wife says, put it in the fridge for a while after we get it out and gotten all hard, and we start vacuum packing them, and but I'd have to put it in the freezer for a bit so it's not moist when you're trying to vacuum pack it. So that's what we do today. And my late sister Rose was the only one that, plus my sister Harriet, come down to help cut fish for smoking, but Harriet had her own fish to cut, so just Darlene, my late sister Rose, and myself, along with Mom. I'd tell Mom, go rest, we'll get it done. Nope, she wouldn't. In the previous years, where my son's house, we used to have apple trees there, and there's a set of green grass on the outskirts of the tree, and my dad was a commercial fisherman. He would come home with chum salmon, and it'll be all on the ground. And my mother won't touch it until 4 days before she cut it. And scrape all the slime off and cut. But she'd done it all on her knees. She didn't have a table, nothing. Yeah, and it's compared to what I use today. I use a table and all that to get ready to smoke. So you're gonna smoke salmon half smoked, 14 hours, maybe 12 hours at times, all depends how thick they are. And I do some dry salmon for male, female, for our cultural use for widows, dancers, etc., right? So, yeah, and I smoke those dry, so, and I just wrap.
Traditionally, you would see people fishing from September onward, and then processing the fish to smoke them and cook them for food would come in, I guess we'd store it as well. But October, November, you'd typically see people starting to gear up to smoke fish?
Well, right from, some won't smoke them because it's too hot. In August, September could be too hot. And every year, and I smoked fish in August, September, October, and November. When it gets high, and it's great sometimes if the fish are around to gaff. Dip net, nobody utilizes that anymore. Homemade dip nets. Sid Williams used to build it, dip nets. Denny Campbell used to build them. Not too many people do it anymore. Yeah, making dip nets for the river.
So I guess that's a couple different methods of fishing in itself, because you spoke about dip nets,
Yeah,
spears, and there's one other that you had mentioned. It was 16 foot long?
gaff.
Gaff, yeah.
Yeah.
So would all, like, those three be the primary traditional methods of fishing?
Yes. That's the way our people fished in the river system historically.
Thank you for tuning into this episode of Connecting Cowichan. This episode has been about smoking fish with our special guest, Wayne Page. Thank you for tuning in. We hope to see you again soon.
I would. I try.